The media is meant to inform us, but sometimes their shoddy reporting does way more harm than good. Welcome to America Uncovered, I'm Chris Chappell. And did you know that YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people from America Uncovered? This channel would be so much bigger if it wasn't shadow banned by YouTube, so do me a favor, and if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. My goal is to get to 600,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And now, on with the show. And I hope you're sitting because I'm about to drop a perception-altering truth bomb on your sweet little noggins. The mainstream media isn't always accurate in their reporting. I know, shocking. Need an example? Remember, both MSNBC and Fox News won lawsuits by claiming no reasonable person could believe what the faces of their networks say. How's that for trusted news? Now, to be fair, nobody's perfect. Mistakes happen. When news outlets get a story wrong, they often put out retractions, correcting themselves. It's the right thing to do. However, the retractions are never as loud and attention-grabbing as the initial juicy, untrue headlines. So people rarely see the correction and still believe the initial story, walking around operating in a version of reality that's been shaped by misinformation. And here are 5 news stories that turned out to be false. Many believed these to be true, and some still do to this day. Let's start with number 5. The Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian disinformation. In October of 2020, the New York Post reported that a laptop left with a Delaware computer shop owner belonged to Hunter Biden and contained emails showing his shady business dealings. The laptop also contained many incriminating photos that Matt graciously researched in thorough detail. Thanks for your service, Matt. Now, you'd think this story coming out a month before the 2020 presidential election would have been big news. However, several former intelligence officials signed a letter calling this laptop Russian disinformation, and the story was buried by several news outlets. It was also buried by pre-Musk Twitter, and former execs of the social media company now admit this was a mistake. Ooh, foreshadowing. The problem, which was just one small, really tiny problem, was that the laptop was actually legit. And Twitter knew this early on as the FBI told them the laptop was real the day the New York Post reported on it. And the Washington Post and the New York Times quietly ran retractions admitting the laptop was legit long after Joe Biden already won the presidential election. Pictures and video from the laptop even became key evidence at Hunter's gun trial, because as it turns out, it is indeed real, as Matt can attest. Speaking of fake news, number 4. Donald Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people. Now we could fill an entire year-round documentary series with all the lies the media spread about Donald Trump. They somehow found a way to make him look even worse than his own stylist. People still call him Putin's puppet, thanks to the largely discredited Steele dossier, which made a lot of unverified claims and alleged Trump had ties to Russia. But perhaps the most egregious lie about Trump, that's still parroted to this day by many, is that he called neo-Nazis very fine people after the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally in August of 2017. Here's the clip that's often shown to prove that.
Very fine people on both sides.
This clip was used to question whether or not Trump was a Nazi sympathizer. Listen, the only 3-second clip that could prove someone is a Nazi sympathizer is if they say, "Yes, I sure am a Nazi sympathizer." Please don't clip that and take it out of context. I don't want to have a fake news story come out about me while covering fake news stories. That's the worst Russian nesting doll I can imagine. Oh, and now I've mentioned Russia. People are going to say I'm a puppet of theirs too. Context really matters here. So here's the context of what Trump said.
You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists. They were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people. neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them.
He not only didn't sympathize with them, he condemned them. But if that clip was too long, here's a shorter one where he condemns them in the same sentence where he says there were fine people on both sides.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Condemning hate while acknowledging good people exist across the political spectrum, all in 8 seconds? When Donald Trump is offering the most concise, nuanced, level-headed take, you know you've lost the plot. But it isn't just powerful figures the media tries to make look bad. Number 3, Nicholas Sandman racistly mocked a Native American. You may remember seeing this footage from 2019 near the Lincoln Memorial, where Covington Catholic High School student Nicholas Sandman smiled at Native American Nathan Phillips, which the media made out to be the most racist thing one could possibly do. The image went viral and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Sandman was racist. Just look at those clothes. Just look at that smile. Teeth are white supremacy. I actually don't know if that's a joke or something someone's actually trying to argue. And if nothing else, a MAGA cap totally is a secret code for I'm a racist. After all, Trump said neo-Nazis are very fine people. Phillips went on to CNN and claimed he found himself in the middle of an ugly situation where he felt hatred coming from the high school students. However, a video that surfaced shortly afterwards showed an entirely different story. Turns out nearby black Hebrew Israelites had become confrontational with the students, and Phillips walked between them while the students were performing a school sports chant.
Tell them come over here in the lion's den instead of mocking over there. You little dirty ass crackers, your day coming. Look at our Make America Great Again hats. Look at the hats.
So with this context, Sandman looks less like a smug racist and more like an awkward teenager. Who's ever heard of such a thing? But crafting a narrative of Sandman being an aggressive racist based solely on one picture and believing only one side of the story without doing any fact-checking? I tell CNN I'm not mad, just disappointed. But to be disappointed, I would have had to expect more from them in the first place. And I guess I'm not the only one. Here's what happened recently when Stephen Colbert interviewed a CNN anchor.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know.
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be.
I guess it was because CNN is a joke. Sandman released a statement explaining, I never interacted with this protester. I did not speak to him. I did not make any hand gestures or other aggressive moves. To be honest, I was startled and confused as to why he approached me. We had already been yelled at by another group of protesters, and when the second group approached, I was worried that a situation was getting out of control where adults were attempting to provoke teenagers. A teenager was the one who acted more reasonably in this situation. Do you remember being a teenager? I had so many hormones running through my body, I couldn't even reasonably pick out which cereal I wanted to eat for breakfast without an emotional outburst. Raisin Bran? You don't get me, Mom! What's next? Donald Trump offering the most concise, nuanced, level-headed take? I see why people might not believe the truth because it's stranger than fiction. But the right is just as guilty of spreading false news. Number 2, Obama is a Kenyan-born Muslim. Otherwise known as the birther movement, this is the idea that former President Barack Obama was actually born in Kenya instead of America, disqualifying him from being able to hold the office of Commander-in-Chief. People thought, and some continue to think this for many reasons, one of which is that his father, Barack Hussein Obama Sr., was born in Kenya. However, he came to America, to Honolulu, for college as a foreign exchange student in 1959, and his son, Barack Hussein Obama II, was born in Honolulu in 1961. Also, his mom is an American citizen, so he'd have citizenship no matter where he was born. The birther movement got bad enough that during his presidency, Obama criticized the media for helping fan the flames of it, calling it a distraction from real issues. And you know who was one of the most notable birthers? Donald Trump. At one point, Trump even offered to give $5 million to charity if Obama released his college and passport records. As a side note for anyone who's interested, Obama's birth certificate can be viewed online at the National Archives. Of course, that's not good enough for a lot of people, because when presented with evidence that contradicts someone's beliefs, they're likely to just say, "And you actually believe that?" I'm guilty of that myself. Whenever my doctor says I'd be healthier if I drank water instead of pure Hershey's chocolate syrup, I'm like, "You actually believe that? You must be a shill for big water." But even the birther movement's biggest celebrity, Trump, eventually admitted he believes Obama was born in the United States. Wow. Being able to admit you're wrong and change your opinion when presented with new facts, that's refreshingly mature. What's that, Shelley? Ooh, Trump is reportedly still touting the birther theory behind closed doors. Of course, this is the media saying that, and as we've seen, taking what the media says at face value is like believing Lucy really won't move the football this time. As for the part that Obama is a Muslim, former Arizona Senator John McCain shut those rumors down when it came up when he ran against Obama for president in 2008.
He's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about.
Yep, that statement caused no controversy. Look, the fear of Obama being a secret Muslim terrorist sympathizer doesn't even make sense, considering how many drone strikes he ordered in the Middle East. Trust me, terrorists definitely aren't going to be inviting Obama to any weddings anytime soon. And speaking of American military action in the Middle East, here's a classic. Number 1, Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. For my younger viewers, let me take you back. The year was 2001. Britney Spears was top of the charts, Jinko jeans were still a style, and oh yeah, 9/11 was a thing. It was a crazy time. I mean, how could anyone wear Jinko jeans? Following 9/11, the US invaded Afghanistan in a war that was totally quick and ended successfully. Yep, Saudi Arabia had nothing to do with anything. Nope. But the US was extra afraid of being attacked again, so the thought of a non-ally country having weapons of mass destruction was extra scary. Enter Iraq, which is almost a direct quote from the Bush administration. They claimed that they had evidence Iraq was harboring WMDs. New York Times reporter Judith Miller put out this report saying Iraq had illegal chemical and biological weapons. And then a few hours later, Vice President Dick Cheney went on Meet the Press and quoted her story as evidence. Cheney used that story and others about WMDs to justify the invasion of Iraq. But in reality, it was Dick Cheney's top aide that fed Judith Miller false intelligence in the first place. And guess what? The weapons of mass destruction were never found. Seems obvious now with the benefit of hindsight it was a mistake. Even then President George W. Bush admitted so.
The decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway.
That wasn't a Freudian slip, that was a Freudian tumbling down a 100-story flight of stairs. But back then, you were called a conspiracy theorist and unpatriotic for questioning the narrative, which many people did. Hey, that's just like today. People who are questioning the narrative today are being called conspiracy theorists. The COVID lab leak theory is a perfect example. The New York Times admits it's a likely theory now. But remember, they were one of the many outlets that denied it at the start of the pandemic, which just goes to show that today's conspiracy theories might just be tomorrow's history. Unfortunately, we're still living in today. And here's something that's not fake news, another video YouTube thinks you'll like. Humans may be wrong, but the algorithm, she knows you better than your mama. And American Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can even set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.